Hello, everyone. We are rolling for another episode of the JJF1 podcast where Jonah and Jordan talk about all things related to F1. Today, at least where I am, it is 12:11 a.m. on January 17th, 2022, which means that we are 60 days from the beginning of the Formula One season, which means that we will be talking right now about the 2022 Formula One calendar with a record, and I quote from the F1 site, a record 23 race Formula One calendar for 2022, including the inaugural Miami GP. So, quick run through of the schedule. Starting on the 18th of March, we have Bahrain, then Saudi Arabia, Australia, Imola, Miami, Spain, Monaco, Azerbaijan, Canada, Great Britain, Austria, France, Hungary, Belgium, Netherlands, Monza, Russia, Singapore, Japan, Austin, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. So, Jordan, 23 races. It looks like we're in the long run. How do you feel first off about this schedule?
Well, I'm happy that a lot of races are coming to the calendar. Australia, Singapore, Canada, and I'm missing one of them, but I heard Japan, I believe. Did I say Japan?
Yeah,
Japan.
Japan.
And I'm really excited for those races to come back to the calendar. Suzuka is a legendary circuit. CGV is legendary. The race under the lights in Singapore. I'm really excited.
Well, look, you stole the first bullet point that I put down on my notes. Is the tracks that are returning to the circuit after a 2-year hiatus due to COVID restrictions. Cross your fingers. Cross your fingers. Nothing happens. We are going back to Melbourne. We're going back to Singapore. We're going back to Suzuka. And above all else, we are going back to Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix in 2022. I mean, Jordan, we bought our tickets for the Canadian Grand Prix. I hope to God it happens. So, I mean, just run us through your excitement level for the 4 tracks that are attempting to return on the calendar.
Yeah, I'm really excited, especially because Jonah and I, as we said in maybe the last podcast, that we bought our tickets for the 2022 Canadian Grand Prix. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Having raced in Montreal since I really got into F1 and started watching every single race. So I'm really excited for the Canadian Grand Prix specifically, also because Circuit Gilles Villeneuve is known to be one of the best tracks on any calendar, with, 2 big straights, the Herpine, and very fun racing. And I'm really excited to see it as a Canadian and as a Formula One fan. And the fact that it's 20 minutes from my house.
Yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the rest of the circuits that are coming back? I mean, Australia, personally, Australia, I'm like, it's not the best circuit in the world. Singapore, I love Singapore. I don't know why, but I love that circuit so much. And Japan is legendary. I want to know how you feel about those 3 circuits coming back too.
I'm really excited mostly for Singapore. Singapore is known to be not only the spectacle under the lights, but it's known to be the most tiring race of the entire season.
No necks.
New Formula One.
No necks.
No necks. And for those Formula One fans who are newer, it's just a known fact that Formula One drivers, every race, every time you see them on TV, they lose from a range of 4 to 8 pounds every single time they do a full race. And Singapore is the race where they lose the most amount of weight because of how tired and how grueling the race is. And that's when the drivers not only push their cars to the limit, but push themselves to the limit. And it's where they show that they really love motor racing. And I think that that's an incredible race to watch.
I agree. I'm really excited for Singapore. Back in one of our first episodes, I put it as one of my top 3 tracks. So I'm very excited that we get to go back. Um, I'm there, however, there are a few tracks that are coming in or coming back. There are a few tracks that are not coming back. Most notably, Portimao is not coming back. Istanbul is not coming back. And Shanghai was supposed to be on the calendar since it was under contract, but it is not coming back. So, Jordan, do you think, are you going to miss Portugal? Are you going to miss Turkey? Or are you going to miss China?
I won't miss China, or I mean, China did offer some good racing, but I'll say that I'll miss China and Portugal less than I'll miss Turkey. I think Turkey is a fantastic track. I think it should be a permanent addition to the Formula One calendar. The four turn that is at the far end of the track is really exciting. The long straight, really exciting. We've seen some wet weather racing, some good wet weather racing in Turkey in the past 2 years. I think Turkey should be a permanent addition to the calendar.
I have been on record saying that I absolutely hate Shanghai. So I am so happy that that Shanghai is not on the calendar. I do not like this circuit at all. Just it's a nightmare to drive. I don't like it. It's a crap circuit. Turkey, I'm on the same board as you. I think that it should be a permanent fixture. The four apex corner is the word you were looking for. Turn 8.
That's yes.
Is honestly, if we had a giant turn 8 in every single circuit, I would still watch it because it's a beautiful turn. Portimao goes back to something that I also said in a previous episode, that it's a MotoGP track, and clearly F1 thinks so too because they got rid of it. So bye bye.
But I think I will add that I think that it did its job in terms of a replacement track. It was great to go to a different country, a different setting. And not only that, but the track itself had a lot of elevation changes, which is something we don't see a lot in F1. And I think for the purpose that it served, I think it really did a good job to offer an alternative to what we're used to seeing for the time being, given the circumstances.
You know what? That's a fair comment, honestly. I do have a question for you though. If you had to choose between for one track to come back and it was Portimao or Mugello, which one would you choose?
Oh no, this is very hard. I really like Mugello. I have to say Mugello. I really like Mugello.
You like Mugello?
Yeah, I think it has a really fast sector 2 into sector 3. The long straight, the big turn 1. I think it's fantastic. I think Mugello should be.
Which MotoGP track should be back on the calendar?
I think it should be Mugello. What about you?
Honestly, neither. I didn't like either. So, and so we do have a new circuit, however, this year. Miami is on the circuit. On the calendar around the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. Jordan, they definitely should have made it in December because, like, half of the people we know are going to be in Florida at that point. So, what are your first takes on the Miami circuit, besides the fact that the prices for the tickets from what we saw were absolutely crazy?
Yeah, they're like $1,000 for like one of the cheapest tickets. They're sold out. You can only get them resale right now. It is absolutely bonkers what's going on, and they're expecting traffic to be exorbitantly high this weekend. I even looked, or I heard from a friend that to rent a car for that weekend, they're almost out of cars to be rented for that weekend because they're expecting so many tourists to come in. And they're already seeing an increase in car rentals. So it's near impossible. So aside from that, I am really excited to see a new track, especially one that's expected to be a high-speed circuit, and more than that, expected to be made specifically for the new cars that we're getting in 2022. Yeah. And I'm glad that they're making a track that's in consideration of the two cars, just like they did for the Corniche circuit in Jeddah.
I was gonna say this reminds me a lot of Jeddah, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a circuit that doesn't have a lot of hard braking zones. The turns are very, very fast. Maybe there's one or two hard braking zones, but it's going to be really excited to see. They're really taking these high speed corners seriously.
I hope these regulations end up actually being built so that the cars could follow each other, because if they built these two tracks that are meant to have close battles and you realize that there's absolutely no downforce change following cars between the two generations, I mean, it'll be a complete waste of money. So um, I don't know. The Miami track looks interesting, but I think that there are too many straights. That's my issue.
There might be. I'll say this: I really liked Jeddah, contrary to a lot of people's opinions. I'm a big fan of the Corniche circuit.
It was the blind circuit. It was the blind corners, sorry, that killed me.
I think it was a great circuit, and I believe it was Herman Tilke that designed the circuit. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken, that he designed also the Miami track. And if it's anything like the Jeddah circuit, taking into account 22 cars, I really like Jeddah, so I can see myself liking Miami.
That's I wish that we could actually go and see what the circuit's like, but I'm not paying whatever it is $1,000 for bare minimum tickets. So
we do have to consider one thing though. Zandvoort was very, very, very hyped. Let's say there was lots of buzz around Zandvoort before the race. It didn't turn out to be as good of a race, so it really can go either way. But given the fact that it was kind of designed like Jeddah, minus the straights, Jeddah has less straights than that. I think it could be okay.
I'm very interested to see how Miami does. Meanwhile, a few points that I wanted to talk about in terms of other circuits that are staying. I want to talk about circuits that are staying. First off, Imola is staying. Are you surprised?
I am not surprised, but I don't know if I would have kept it on the calendar.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, the reason why I think it's on the calendar is because it was the second race of this prior season, and it really surprised a lot of people and surpassed a lot of people's expectations in terms of the wheel-to-wheel racing in Sector 1, in terms of Lewis Hamilton going off at the Tosa corner at the end. It really surpassed a lot of expectations, the big crash. And I think that because they had made the calendar prior to that and they saw what positive reaction came from it, I think that's why they kept it. Are there tracks that deserve to be on there more than Imola? Yes.
I think that I'm not a huge fan of Imola. I don't know. It's not a fantastic track. Yeah, it's very historic and it's the San Marino Grand Prix and from all those years ago, but is it a great circuit? I mean, we had some good reel-to-reel racing last year, but that was also because it was raining. So are we expecting there to be wet races in Imola each year? I hope not, but I don't know. I think I'm on the same board as you where maybe there are better circuits that should be on the calendar instead, like Turkey.
Yeah, look, you'll tell me what you think about this because this might be a reason why my opinion is a little skewed. I'm not a fan. I really want to hear your opinion about this. I'm not a fan of having multiple races inside one country.
I agree. I'm on the same side as you.
I think like if you're going to have two Grand Prix in a country like Italy or in the United States, I think that other countries deserve more representation than having two countries in a single race. I understand that money talks and his history plays into it, and they had a very positive review from Imola, for example. I think that Formula One needs to do a better job of representing and as many people as they can. We race as one, the whole message. And I believe that going to a whole new continent like Africa, maybe going to South Africa, for example, could be a good idea instead of having two races in one country.
You know what? I kind of agree with that. I mean, 2020, we had an exceptional circumstance where there were 3 races in Italy, but also COVID. So we can't necessarily blame it for that. But I feel like this is something that Formula One has tried many times before, especially in the US, where at one point there were 3 races in the US in a year. We had like all these random street circuits in the US. There was Long Beach, there was Detroit, there was Phoenix, there was Dallas, there was Caesar's Palace parking lot. And on top of that, there were some other great tracks that hosted Formula One races, like Indianapolis and like Watkins Glen, even before COTA got a circuit back. So, I mean, I feel like this is, especially on the US side, Formula One's way of trying their best again to try to get American fans on board. And I hope that it pays off for them because we want our sport to grow, but I think that it's risky. It's risky on the part of Formula One to add multiple races in the US. And with Italy, I mean, I'm not too shocked because people would go to the races anyways. But you know, it's not surprising for me, but I think that they should go to somewhere else. Like instead of going to Imola, maybe they keep Portimao or they keep Turkey instead. But
Yeah,
I think that, I mean, the only place where I would accept 2 F1 races is in Montreal and then in Tremblant. Uh, but otherwise, that's it.
very, very, very good take.
I just want to make sure if I have any points left. Oh yeah, so last point, what are, besides Canada, your 2 most ready to watch races?
Oh, this is a good question. So besides Canada, my 2 most ready to watch races, always number 1 has to be Monza, because Monza is a race that I have to watch every year. Best race of the season by far in my books. And I would say a repeat of Jeddah. I want to see Jeddah.
Really?
Yeah, I want to see Jeddah in different circumstances. Because it was the second to last race last season, a lot of the focus was on the Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen. I'm sure that was in their minds when they pulled a lot of moves that they pulled. I really want to see Jeddah in a regular race setting where there's clean racing the entire time, and we can actually have an idea of how the wheel-to-wheel clean racing is the entire time, and also with the drivers knowing the track a little bit more.
That's a very solid analysis. I mean, I really like Jeddah as a circuit. I think that it's a little bit too dangerous for the drivers, especially with all the blind corners. But I think that in better circumstances, it'll definitely be an interesting circuit. Monza, I know how much you love Monza. It's like you can't question. So
And if I could personally, I'm very lucky. I'm going to the Canadian Grand Prix, but if I could go to any race in my life, I would definitely want to go to the Monaco Grand Prix.
Jordan, what do you think I'm going to say for the first race that I want to watch besides Canada?
Monaco.
Well, no.
Oh, I thought, as I just mentioned.
No. It's Baku. It's got to be Baku. I'm gonna be watching Baku. You know how much I love Baku. I love Baku.
Yes, you do.
It's a beautiful circuit. You can't go wrong with it. Any circuit that has a castle in it gets a 10 out of 10 in my books. And I mean, I'm so excited to see Singapore again. I miss it. It's an amazing track, and hopefully the streets of Singapore get to light it up again. And with 12-hour difference, we'll definitely be asleep because it'll be nighttime in Singapore. But hopefully, we'll be waking up in the morning and watching it when we want.
I am very excited for next season.
Do you have any
Stick around.
comments on the calendar?
I just wanted to see Istanbul be a permanent for the calendar, let's say. And yes, that's it.
That's it. All right. Well,
And you?
I mean, look, it looks like it's going to be a very, very interesting calendar. I think the European leg is going to be interesting, even though we've seen them the most often. The switch between all of the circuits, now that all of them are there, is going to be a lot of fun. So, on that note, I guess if you have any last words, this is going to be the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Do you any last words?
I am very excited for next season, and I'm excited to be at the Canadian Grand Prix.
I can't wait for the Canadian Grand Prix either. This is going to be great. If you want to see us at the Canadian Grand Prix, if you want to follow us during the off season and during the 2022 season with this crazy calendar, feel free to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at the JJF1 podcast, and we will see you for the next episode. See ya.